David Fincher isn't Stanley Kubrick. He doesn't push his actors quite to the point of a full mental breakdown, but somehow a lot of actors still hated working with him. He's obsessive about details, demands endless takes, and expects full intensity every time. Some actors couldn't stand it, and some refused to work with him ever again. First up, ironically enough, is someone who actually survived a Stanley Kubrick set. Lee Ermey, the guy who played the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, worked with Fincher on Seven, and he absolutely hated the experience. For Ermey, the biggest problem was control. He thought Fincher micromanaged everything to the point where actors had no freedom at all. He once said that Fincher doesn't want actors that are creative. He wants puppets. He even went as far as saying that if you're not worth a shit at acting and you're not creative, then I would recommend that you go work with David Fincher, because he won't let you act, even if you are a good actor. Michael Douglas had a similar experience working on The Game. Douglas actually likes Fincher, but even he admitted the process was brutal. Fincher would push him to keep going, take after take after take, because he was seeing something the actors weren't. And that was exhausting. Douglas once said, "I've never worked with anybody quite like that." That being said, he still considers The Game one of the films he's most proud of. He loved how unpredictable it was, saying that most movies telegraph their endings early on, but with this one, you could never figure out what the ending was going to be. He even called Fincher a very talented filmmaker. He just wasn't in a hurry to do that again. If there's one thing that's clear, it's that Fincher and his actors tend to butt heads. And even Edward Norton wasn't an exception. Norton starred in Fight Club, which has since become one of Fincher's most acclaimed films, but during production, the two of them fought constantly, especially over the movie's tone. Norton saw it as a comedy and kept pushing to make sure the humor was obvious. Fincher hated that approach. He didn't want the film winking at the audience, reassuring them that it was all in good fun. He wanted people to question it, and that became a huge sticking point between them. They fought about it so much that production had to stop multiple times just so they could argue it out. In the end, they got through it, and the film turned out great. But after that experience, they never worked together again. And speaking of actors who never went back, Robert Downey Jr. and David Fincher are never going to work together again. To be fair, both of them have a reputation for being difficult. Fincher is a control freak. He's cold, demanding, and obsessive over details. Downey, on the other hand, has always been known for being unpredictable, especially earlier in his career. So, when they worked together on Zodiac, it was not a great match. Fincher would do 70 takes of a single scene, searching for the perfect one. Downey couldn't stand it. At one point, he straight up compared working for Fincher to being in a prison camp. He said, "I think I'm the perfect person to work for Fincher because I understand gulags." Safe to say, he never signed up for that experience again. Gyllenhaal was also in Zodiac, and from day one, he and Fincher just did not get along. Gyllenhaal later said that working for Fincher felt like being used as a tool rather than an actor. He described it as Fincher paints with people. It's tough to be a color. And Fincher didn't exactly make things easier. He thought Gyllenhaal was too unfocused, too easily distracted. He once said that, yeah, Gyllenhaal had experience. He'd been acting since he was a kid, but he had never been pushed to focus on minutia the way Fincher demanded. By the time Zodiac wrapped, both of them were completely over it. Gyllenhaal wasn't interested in working with Fincher again, and Fincher probably felt the same way.